Just about 36 hours out from Iowa's contest against the Illinois State Redbirds to kick off the 2024 season. We've had all kinds of preseason coverage right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. A couple of things I want to let you know about if you're not familiar with our playlists. For one being the press conferences playlist, which includes all of our interviews from Media Day. They're all up on the channel. If you click on From the Hawkeye of the Storm on YouTube and then click on playlists and find press conferences, you'll find all of my interviews with select Hawkeye players back in mid-August. Plus, if you have not checked out the 2024 season preview I recorded with Coach Don Patterson, former Hawkeye assistant coach Don Patterson, we sat down for almost 3 hours talking about the Hawkeyes in a two-part special. Be sure to watch that. You can find that under playlists and Brada's Branded Thoughts. That's the branded podcast here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Check it all out under playlists here on YouTube. Also, if you are not subscribed, I've been making this plea, be sure you subscribe. I don't normally do this, but take a look at this analytic from a recent video. About half of our viewers from a recent video are not subscribed. Check out this number. Pretty incredible when you think about it. As we near 10,000 and yet half of the viewers, this is a pretty typical number, have not yet subscribed. Please, if you're a Hawkeye fan, folks, be sure you subscribe. It does help the channel immensely, and more coverage, more and more features here as the number continues to grow. Let's hit 10,000 ASAP right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So as we approach kickoff, let's talk about injuries. There was some scuttle last night on Kirk Ferentz's appearance on Hawk Talk, which is Gary Dolphin and Learfield's midweek show with the head man for the Hawkeyes, who will not be with the team Saturday morning for kickoff due to a suspension. But Kirk did mention that they have dealt with some injuries during this final week of prep. They're obviously going full contact now, and injuries are a part of the game. No official word on the severity of any. He hoped, at least he expressed last night, that he hoped most guys would be able to play on Saturday. I had made mention to our premium subscribers throughout the month of August of a couple of injuries that I had been made aware of, but nothing too serious that I am aware of at this point. But with that being said, last year, the injury bug really hit Iowa once the season got underway. You could argue Iowa's three most important players went down in Cade McNamara, Luke Lachey, and later Eric All. So who are the most indispensable players on the 2024 version of the Iowa roster? And I almost guarantee you my number one will surprise you. Perhaps my entire group of five will surprise you because an important position not listed. Let's start with number 5. My fifth most indispensable player, and this may surprise a lot of people, it's Jacob Gill. Yes, I know this wide receiver group has not really proven anything. Gill has not proven anything in a game, but all I keep hearing about is his leadership within that room. And it's a young group of players that desperately need a guy to look at as an example and to lead the way. And right now, I think he's the number one guy, not only ahead of Seth Anderson, Jarrett Bowie, Caden Weegan, Reese Vanderzee, but also Caleb Brown. And who knows what production Iowa will get out of the wide receiver room this year, but I do think the leadership of Jacob Gill and his ability to make plays in big situations, I think we'll see that. I think he's seasoned enough and obviously has the Big Ten experience at Northwestern to be a very important person in the fray of a very crowded room with a bunch of unproven talent at wide receiver. How about number 4? Reese Dakin, another guy who's never officially played for Iowa, but how can we not list Iowa's punter after the importance that Tory Taylor showed over the last 4 seasons? He, of course, is now with the Chicago Bears, but Reese Dakin, a lot of hype around this freshman who came from the same Australia kicking camp as Tory Taylor did, and Dakin has really turned heads in preseason. Ty Nissen is behind him, but does not have the leg and the leg talent overall that Reese Dakin has. Iowa is still going to be very reliant on good special teams play. Dakin is my number 4 on my top 5 most indispensable. And we come to a guy that got hurt last year. It's not Cade McNamara, but it's Luke Lachey, who may be Iowa's best, overall their best offensive player on this team. He's certainly one of their most proven. A lot of hype around the offensive line, but a lot of guys who have not met expectation as of yet. I'd say the same thing about Cade McNamara at quarterback, and certainly all the wide receivers on this team pretty healthy at running back. We've discussed it But Luke Lachey is going to be in line for a lot of targets. His ability to block in this new running attack under the Tim Lester lead will certainly be big, and he's got a chance to vault up draft boards as this season progresses, and he wants to get back out there. He hasn't been off the field for this long in quite some time. Now, he's been back for several months, but I'm talking about the injury he sustained in September of 2023 and the amount of time it took for him to get back healthy, and he opted to come back when he probably still could have been drafted. Hey, his counterpart, Eric All, got drafted in the 4th round by the Bengals in spite of a season-ending knee injury. Luke Lachey comes in at number 3. Number 2, Sebastian Castro, the suburban Chicago native. Boy, no proven experience behind him. Right now, John Nestor, the redshirt freshman, is listed as his backup at cash. But that 4-2-5 concept continues to be more and more important as offenses change. And Phil Parker's done a nice job of getting the next guy in whenever somebody graduates, but they've maintained health there from Geno Stone to Amani Hooker to Dane Belton. It's rare they have to go to number 2. Sebastian Castro throws his body around. He is like a missile. Reckless abandonment is a term we hear when we watch him. And I'm telling you this right now, folks, he is of utmost importance. His health is of utmost importance, and he may end up being considered the best player on this team as a whole. And that's a lot to be said when you have guys like Jay Higgins, Luke Lachey, even Nick Jackson, and hopefully a very talented group on the line, up front, on defense, and on offense. And that brings me to number 1, and this may throw everybody for a loop, but it's Iowa's place kicker, Drew Stevens. They have no proven experience. They have nothing behind Drew Stevens. With all due respect to Trip Woody, he may turn out to be a great Power 4 Big Ten kicker someday, and hopefully that's for Iowa. But as I mentioned to my premium members here, a week or 2 ago, he's been dealing with a bit of an injury, and that means that Alec Wick is really the only other guy who would be in line for place kicking duties if Drew Stevens were to go down. Now, it sounds like Trip Woody is trying to get some work in now, but he struggled during camp when he was healthy as a true freshman. There's just nobody behind Stevens. And I get it. Like, it's rare that you have great kicking depth, but I just worry about the amount of depth, lack thereof, right now behind Drew Stevens. Stevens dealt with a little bit of an injury during the season last year. Sounds like he's maybe been kicking through some pain. Would not be surprised to see him do that again in 2024. Look, they need him to stay healthy. The kicking game is so important, not just kickoffs. We know returns have become less and less a part of college football. But boy, your ability to put 3 points on the board in low-scoring games is of utmost importance. And everybody, hey, you have a right to your opinion if you disagree with that estimation. But to me, when I look at most indispensable, I look at a guy you can least afford to lose. And Drew Stevens, what are you going to do without Drew Stevens? Tell me. I mean, is it going to be a Trip Woody who struggled with injuries and has struggled with accuracy and distance throughout fall camp? Or are you going to bring in a wide receiver who kicked in high school? They absolutely need Drew Stevens to stay healthy, and he will be instrumental in Iowa's success because I think he's going to be pretty good this year when put in a position to score. So those are my top 5 most indispensable players on the 2024 version of the Iowa Hawkeyes. And yes, game 1 is Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time. Join this channel for Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson following the game, and then a second part of that show Sunday night with Coach Patterson. We've got you covered all weekend long following the game.